The Overturn prophetess, Princess Bola, has just released a new video focusing on the country called Kenya. In this video, I'm going to give you highlights of that prophecy, and generally prepare you for it, so that by the time you get to the end of the video, there'll be a link, and you can go straight to that video, and I advise you to listen to it very, very carefully. Listen to it 2, 3 times, 4 times, or even more, and make sure that you understand and you get the message in your spirit. Now, it is very important, for those who are spiritual and for those who are following this channel to understand this prophecy. Let me just elaborate on what I mean by understand. You can be seated in a classroom, the teacher explains something, and you get it. If they ask you, after they're finished, if you can tell the class exactly what they've been teaching, you'll be able to do it. Borrowing heavily from my exact phrases, borrowing very heavily from my examples. However, there are those few in that same class who will not only get it, but they will understand it. They will digest and understand it. The huge difference is that if they are told to explain what the teacher has just taught, they will do it in their own words, using their own examples, using something totally new. In other words, they have taken the lesson and made it their own. And this is what I want us to do, and I very strongly believe that this is what God Almighty wants us to do. Now, to be totally honest to all of you, when I started going in this direction, of using prophecy and the prophetic word to analyze politics in Kenya, I had no idea what I was doing. And bang in the middle of it, I woke up and I started asking myself very many questions. Will people be able to understand prophecies? Will Kenyans be able to understand the prophetic ministry? And here I'm talking even about church-going believers. Because the idea many Kenyans have of the prophetic ministry is that a true prophet is one who comes and tells you that in 3 years' time, you'll be driving a very big car, you'll be living in a mansion, and you'll be super rich. And it comes to pass, according to many Kenyans, that is a true prophet. But that's a huge misunderstanding of the prophetic ministry. Because you have to ask yourself, first of all, what is the purpose of the prophetic ministry in the work of God Almighty? And it is this: it is to further the agenda of God Almighty. A corporate organization has different offices. You'll find the office of the accountant, the office of the marketing manager, etc., etc. And all these offices are supposed to do what? They all have one purpose and one purpose alone, to carry forward the agenda of that corporation, or that company, or that business. And this is precisely the same in the business of God Almighty. A pastor, a teacher, an evangelist, all these are different offices, including the office of the prophet. And all of them are not supposed to do anything else but carry forward the agenda of God Almighty. When you understand this simple truth, then you'll be able to take in the prophecy. Actually, it's an update on the Overturn prophecy. It's not anything new. It's just an update. Okay? You'll be able to not only take it in and get it, but you'll also be able to understand. And when you understand, you'll be able to do many things. You can plan ahead. You can take safety precautions, to save your own life, etc., etc. And most importantly, you can ensure that you do not block, or rather attempt to block, the agenda of God Almighty. Some years back, I found myself in a place where I was being taught a lot of things about the prophetic ministry. A lot of deep things about the prophetic ministry. And let me be totally frank and honest. A lot of the times I was bored. I didn't understand why I was being taught about the prophetic ministry. I didn't understand why it would do me any good any time in future in my life. Yeah, after all, I was not planning to go into church work. I was not planning to be a prophet. And I listened, and sometimes I fell asleep, sometimes I didn't understand, but at the end of it all, I absorbed a lot of information. I got a lot of very deep understanding of what the prophetic ministry is about. Well, let's fast forward to now on this channel. That information, that teaching, that boring teaching has been invaluable to me. Yeah, it's interesting how things happen in this life. Anyway, if it's the biggest problem we have had in Kenya over prophecy is that most of the people take in prophecy and then the first thing they ask is how their favorite candidate, how their favorite political party, how their community is going to be affected by that prophecy. And they try their best to ensure that their favorite candidate, their favorite party, benefits from that prophecy. And so if for any reason that prophecy seems to go against Raila Odinga, for instance, some certain people will never ever absorb that prophecy. Or if that prophecy appears to affect President Uhuru Kenyatta, some people will never ever ever accept that particular prophecy. In other words, what these people are doing, they're trying to use God's agenda to further their own personal agenda. And that cannot work. Anyway, let's move over to the highlight of the prophecy. Now, in a nutshell, what this prophecy is about, it's about the conclusion of the Overturn prophecy. The conclusion of the Overturns. What this prophecy tells us very clearly is that the end is near. Yeah, the end of that prophecy is very close, and it gives us a glimpse of how we're going to be brought to the end of that prophecy. This is the stage in the prophetic word of it shall be no more. Remember the word from Ezekiel? I shall overturn, 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 and it shall be no more. Until the one comes, the one whose right it is. The prophecy talks about a very, very major tsunami that is going to sweep right across the country, both physically and spiritually. Now, it is important in prophecy to remain focused, on God's objectives, objective or main objective. And what is God's main objective in this Overturn prophecy? It is to deliver a brand new Kenya. Now, before a brand new Kenya is delivered, the old must be cast aside. The old must disappear. Let us take a simple example. You're already fortunate enough to be amongst those Kenyans who drive a car. Okay, so you have your car. Then somebody comes and tells you, next week you'll have a brand new car. And they tell you this when you're very much aware of the fact that you have no plans of buying a new car. Buying a new car is not like buying a new loaf of bread. These things are expensive. It takes planning. You'll have to put the finances together. But they tell you next week you'll have a brand new car. Now, the most likely thing that will happen for you to have a brand new car is that the current car which you're driving will have to be destroyed. Chances are that the car will maybe be burnt to ashes. The insurance company pays you or replaces with a brand new car. Or you could, God forbid, be involved in a horrendous accident, and you come through unscathed. God saves you and protects you, and you walk out of that accident whole and healthy. But your car is a write-off, it cannot be repaired, and therefore the insurance company replaces your car, buys you a brand new car. So it is the same thing here. For a brand new Kenya to come, the old Kenya must be totally destroyed. The old Kenya must be involved in a road accident where the old Kenya car is declared a write-off. It just becomes a wreckage, no longer a car. And that is when the brand new Kenya will come. And it is in the word, because the word says, and it shall be no more. Whatever was there before shall be no more. And that situation shall remain like that until that other thing, the one whose right it is, comes. That other thing, let's call it a brand new Kenya, comes. Now before I go, let's take a bird's eye view of what has happened over this prophecy so far. In order to get the whole picture, let's say you had a jigsaw puzzle, you collect what you've already figured out. Then when you collect together and piece together what you've already figured out, the rest of the picture becomes clearer. Last August, we went into an election. And for anybody who analyzes things the normal way, it would have been obvious, or rather it was very obvious, that whether the election was stolen or not, the elections would be over, and Kenyans would accept the results, stolen or not, and would move on, just like we have done before. And even if there was trouble or violence, the trouble of violence would be there for a short while, and then we would move on. Things would return to normal. Now, what has happened? To this date, we are now heading towards the middle of 2018, things have never returned back to normal. After the election results were announced, the results were disputed in a petition in the Supreme Court. It was widely expected that the Supreme Court would uphold the election results, as they have always done, as Supreme Courts the world over have always done, not only in Kenya. But what happened? Kenya made history. Kenya became the third example in the history of mankind to have a presidential election nullified. Now the effect of that was huge. Running this channel, I can tell you it was huge, humongous. Because what happened is that all Kenyans, this got the attention of all Kenyans, all over the world, spread in every corner of this planet called Earth. They all sat up and paid attention. The whole world also sat up and paid attention. What is happening in Kenya? What's going on? This is an African country. This is a third world country. Some would even call this country a banana republic. And they nullify a presidential election? What? There was even a very famous quote, very telling famous quote by American presidential candidate and former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. She said that our laws in America do not allow such a thing. What was she saying? She was saying, according to the laws in America, it is impossible to nullify a presidential election. But it happened in Kenya. The other very major event that followed was the handshake. The handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga nullified Deputy President William Ruto. And it also nullified a lot of other people. Now it is very easy to make a list of who was nullified by this handshake. You just have to look at the people complaining and fighting against it, and you just put them on the list. And so, prophetically speaking, the handshake overturned a lot of things. Now, as I make this video, the situation in Kenya is that there's a lot of confusion. What do I mean? Okay, somebody who comes in and analyzes a situation, is supposed to make things clearer. So a lot of political analysts are coming in to analyze the situation, and they're leaving the rest of us, and even themselves, more confused than they were when they started the analysis. That's a fact. And in all due humbleness, because I'm very humbled by what I'm about to say, this is what has attracted a lot of people to this channel. Because when they come to this channel, they get clarity. They don't understand everything, but at least when they come to this channel, they leave less confused than when they came. Is it because I'm a super analyst? No. I deny that in the strongest terms possible. Is it because we have some extra special inside information that others don't have? I also deny that. A lot of the information we have is accessible to many other analysts. Indeed, the analysts I know, several, who have more privileged information than we will ever get on this channel. So what is the difference? The difference is that we are following the prophetic word. In our political analysis, we're including what God Almighty wants to do in Kenya. It's really as simple as that. And make no mistake about it. Yeah? Let me make this very clear. I did not sit somewhere and plan and say, I'm going to be able to be a very good analyst by sticking to prophecy. It never happened. As I've just explained earlier in this video, I just found myself going in that road. I found myself going in that direction. And indeed, I reached a point in the road where I woke up and realized where I was going, and I was scared. I was worried. I had concerns. Meaning that somebody clearly led me in that path. Somebody clearly led me in that direction, knowing very well what was going to happen in future. And all this has made me look much better than I really am. I'll give you a very simple example. Something unprecedented happens in Kenya. Something happens politically. When I sit down to analyze it, at the back of my mind, I have that verse. Overturn, overturn, overturn. So when things start happening that suggest that NASA is finished, that NASA is dead, the other analysts will not make that prediction. They'll not make that bold statement. But when those things happen, with the verse at the back of my mind, I know this could be another overturn. And I boldly come to this channel and I tell you NASA is dead. And people tell me, Chris, you're crazy. NASA can never die. How will it die? What will we have after NASA is dead? You remember those comments on this channel. And what happens next? Actually, after a while, after a few months, everybody realizes that actually NASA is dead. I hope you clearly get what I'm saying. And that is why when somebody comes on this channel and makes a comment and says, Chris, I hate it when you bring in the Overturn prophecy into your analysis. Why don't you just stick to political analysis? Now you can see very clearly, with all due respect to the person who made that comment, that what they're saying, let me just leave it at that, it can't work. How do you analyze? How? Somebody was even bolder and they told me to my face, Chris, stop this overturn nonsense. Well, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it nonsense. You can call it daydreaming. But the truth is there for everybody to see. The facts are there for everybody to see. The old videos you have made on this channel are all there for everybody to see. Just go back 6 months back. Take in some Kumekucha videos and you'll notice and you'll realize what I'm talking about. And it has all happened because I was led like a blind man in a path that I did not know about. Yeah? I was led when I didn't know what was happening. And here I am. All the glory and all the honor must go to the back to He who led me. Yeah? God Almighty Himself. The long and short of what I'm trying to say here, or rather what I'm saying, is that when you remove the Overturn prophecy from this channel, then you have nothing. There is no reason for this channel. There's no reason to take in the videos in this channel. And that is the truth. So without taking up any more of your time, let us go straight to the Overturn prophecy update. Just quickly to remind you, take it in, digest it, and make it your own, so that there's a high chance that you'll be one of the very fortunate people who will see what God has done, who will see the brand new Republic of Kenya. Let's go over to it right away. Yeah, look at the link on the top left-hand corner of your screen. It should be there already. Yeah, click on it and go to that prophecy. This is Chris Kumekucha.